If you imagine retirement as a finish line you cross with confetti and never worry about money again, the truth will unsettle you in the best possible way. Retirement isn't the end of your financial life. It's the longest and strangest project you'll ever run. 30 years of income you have to manufacture without a paycheck, while markets misbehave, prices drift upward, bodies change, families evolve, and governments adjust rules you do not control. The point of this episode isn't to scare you. It's to give you a map that works in weather, a choreography you can follow on your calm days and your tired ones. No bullet points, no fantasies, just the real mechanics of a life where work becomes optional and your money keeps its promises. Start with the most important reframing. Retirement is not a number. It's a cash flow system that keeps your lifestyle funded when employment income stops or shrinks. People obsess over a lump sum because it's concrete, but the monthly rhythm is what keeps refrigerators full and lights on. Your task is to build reliable streams, a schedule that feeds those streams, and buffers that absorb shocks so you aren't forced to sell assets at the worst moment. That doesn't require genius. It requires plumbing and a handful of rules you write while calm and obey when headlines yell. The first unsettling truth is longevity. Human lifespans stretch further than our instincts. A 65-year-old today may need to fund 30 years or more of living, which means you're not designing a victory lap, you're building a decades-long bridge. Longevity risk, the chance you outlive your money, sounds abstract until you do the calendar math. A plan that only works for 15 years is not a plan, it's a countdown clock. Your response is not to hide entirely in safe assets that quietly erode. It's to own enough growth to outrun inflation and enough stability to sleep, and to combine those with income you can't outlive. That balance is not a product, it's a portfolio and a few life choices that fit your actual temperament. The second unsettling truth is that returns don't arrive in the order you prefer. Sequence risk is the villain few savers meet until it's too late. If the first years of retirement happen to be rough for markets, withdrawing a fixed amount from a shrinking portfolio can lock in damage that a later rebound cannot repair. Two people with identical average returns can end with very different outcomes because one experienced the bad years up front. You cannot predict sequence. You can design around it. Keep a cash-like buffer so normal withdrawals don't require selling shares during a sale. Use flexible withdrawal rules that breathe with reality instead of pretending every year is the same. Own assets that don't move together. And frame your first decade of retirement like a pilot's takeoff. This is the highest risk phase, so the plan is extra conservative until you're at cruising altitude. Third, inflation is slow thunder. It rarely makes headlines in a given week, but over a decade it quietly halves the buying power of cash that didn't grow. Retirees feel this in grocery aisles and utility bills, not just on charts. You need exposure to productive assets, companies that raise prices and innovate precisely because prices rise. If the volatility of stocks scares you, your allocation can tilt toward stability, but replacing growth with guaranteed flatness is how purchasing power dies. The trick is to design a money rhythm where your essentials are covered without selling shares in storms, so you can afford to let your growth assets ride long enough to do their job. Fourth, healthcare is the dragon in the cave. Whether you live in a country with public systems or private ones, healthcare in later life is uneven, and long-term care is the unpredictable monster that visits some households and spares others. The answer isn't fear, it's pre-commitment. You set aside a protected pocket for medical costs, premiums, deductibles, copays, dental and vision, hearing aids, therapies, and you top it up on a schedule, not in a panic. If your system allows tax-advantaged medical savings, you use them for the triple win: tax benefits now, growth over time, and tax-free qualified spending. For long-term care, you evaluate your family history, your assets, and your tolerance for risk. Insurance isn't for everyone, but the conversation is mandatory, and the plan you write, buy, self-insure, or a mix must exist before a diagnosis does. Fifth, taxes don't retire when you do. The most expensive investment fee many retirees pay is unplanned taxation. pulling from the wrong account at the wrong time, tripping thresholds that increase levies on benefits, or turning a modest withdrawal into a larger bill because of if-then rules. The antidote is tax diversification before retirement and deliberate withdrawal order after. Owning a mix of tax-deferred accounts, tax-free accounts, and taxable brokerage gives you dials to turn. In retirement, you can blend withdrawals to keep yourself in friendlier brackets. You can realize gains when it's cheap and harvest losses when it helps. You can place bond income where it's taxed gently and keep more tax-efficient assets in the accounts that see daylight. None of this requires wizardry. It requires a Sunday note and a calendar that says when each dial moves. Sixth, houses are not simply homes. They're cash flow machines, either friendly or demanding. A paid-off home reduces monthly pressure and shields you from rent inflation, but big houses bill you in distance and maintenance. Downsizing can fund decades of optionality if it shrinks your map and your costs. Upsizing for status can turn retirement into a part-time job you didn't want. If you love your home, great, design your budget to maintain it. If your home is secretly a hobby you fund with anxiety, a move buys back time and lowers your burn rate. If you're housing rich and cash flow poor and your system allows it, equity release tools exist, but they are not free money. They are advanced levers that require sober math and informed counsel. The test is simple. Does your address make your week cheaper and calmer? If yes, keep it. If not, change the map. Seventh, retirement spending is not a flat line. It's a smile. Early years are go-go, full of travel and projects. Then slow-go arrives as energy and desire normalize. Later comes no-go, where the calendar empties but healthcare fills some of the space. If your plan assumes every year costs the same, you will either underspend your best years or stress your worst. A flexible plan anticipates this arc. It front-loads joy while mobility is high, trims in quieter years, and reserves for care. That's not wishful thinking, it's how humans age. Design for it now and you won't feel guilty later for doing exactly what life invites. Eighth, annuities, when stripped of marketing glitter, are simply pensions you buy for yourself. Most products are too complicated and too expensive. Some, used correctly, are elegant. A plain, immediate income annuity that turns a chunk of capital into a monthly paycheck you can't outlive. The unsettling part is giving up liquidity. The comforting part is removing longevity risk from a portion of your budget. You do not have to annuitize everything. You can build a base that covers non-negotiables, housing, food, essential utilities, insurance, and an annuity slice. The remainder stays invested for growth and flexibility. If you explore this route, keep it boring. Riders that promise magic usually collect their fee in ways you won't notice until later.
Ninth, dividends are not a magic retirement paycheck. They are one way a company returns value, but the day a stock pays a dividend, its price adjusts by roughly that amount. You turned part of your asset into cash. You didn't create wealth. If dividends fit your temperament and tax situation, fine, but do not confuse a distribution method with a safety feature. A total return mindset, owning broad markets cheaply, taking whatever mix of dividends, interest, and prudent sales you need, usually serves retirees better than contorting a portfolio to force cash flow. Flexibility is a fortress, dogma is a trap. 10th, the portfolio that works in retirement is boring by design. It owns thousands of companies around the world at very low cost, and pairs them with bonds or cash-like instruments calibrated to your sleep, your spending needs, and your flexibility. It rebalances once or twice a year. Your birthday and half-birthday are fine, so drift doesn't quietly change your risk. It deletes expensive wrappers and clever strategies that promise protection but mostly charge for complexity. It prefers asset location over asset obsession, placing income-heavy holdings where taxes least punish them, and leaving tax-efficient holdings where you might draw earlier. It is not Instagrammable, it is survivable. 11th, the biggest retirement risk isn't markets, it's behavior. Panic selling, chase buying, making permanent decisions on temporary feelings, and lifestyle creep after a bull run are how solid plans come apart. You address behavior with process. Move your phone charger out of the bedroom, so mornings belong to water, light, and a 2-minute glance that your transfers ran. Remove trading apps from your home screen. Keep a 5-line Friday scoreboard in a notes app that tracks what actually matters: cash buffer months on hand, portfolio allocation versus target, spending versus plan this month, withdrawals year to date, and late fees avoided this quarter. If any are 0 or off, you write that without drama and book a Monday fix. You are building a rhythm, not chasing applause. 12. Retirement is a team sport. If you share a life, shared rails prevent most fights. Use one calm, shared scoreboard and a short weekly conversation that feels more like a weather report than a court case. Protect a small personal no-questions amount for each adult, so autonomy lives inside the plan, not outside it. Agree on scripts to say no to lifestyle auditions you don't want. We're on a quiet period for upgrades. Ask us again in spring. Our hang budget this month is X. After that, it's park mornings and breakfasts. Your partner is not your opponent. Uncertainty is. Treat it like a project, not a personality test. 13. Purpose matters more than people admit. When work ends or shrinks, the hours you used to sell must be repurposed, or they will be sold to boredom and shopping. The happiest retirees we meet design their week like they designed their budget. A few anchors on the calendar that bring meaning and connection. Volunteering with a group they care about. Shared routines with people they like. Learning that stretches their brain. Movement that respects their body. This isn't a soft add-on. Purpose stabilizes spending because it replaces buy something to feel something with activity that feels like a life. A portfolio funds freedom. A calendar makes sure you recognize it when it arrives. Now that the hard truths are on the table, here's a choreography that holds them. During your accumulation years, you set up rails so money moves before moods wake up. Income lands in a staging account with no card attached. In week 1, a bills-only account drafts the non-negotiables: housing, utilities, essential insurance, transport, and minimum payments. The day after payday, small drips refill pockets for the predictable irregulars: tires and service, co-pays and meds, gifts, school or kid activities, pet care, travel, and seasonal energy spikes. Every Friday morning, a weekly card refills with a number that carries groceries and ordinary life for 7 days. A savings transfer lands on payday, and once the foundation is steady, an investing drip buys broad, low-cost funds on the same date. This is not a budgeting trick. It's training for retirement's cash flow choreography. You're practicing systems you will keep when the paycheck stops. As retirement nears, within 5 to 10 years, you shift from pile building to bridge building. You define your floor and your upside. The floor is what you must cover every month to feel safe: housing, utilities, food, basic transport, insurance, and baseline healthcare. You stack secure streams to meet the floor: social benefits, pensions, rental income you actually want to manage, and, if appropriate, a simple lifetime income annuity. The upside is everything that makes your life feel like yours: travel, hobbies, gifts, adventures with people you love. The upside is funded by the portfolio, equities and bonds that grow and shrink but on average pay you to own them. You don't have to fully separate the money, you have to separate the thinking. When markets wobble, you don't cut heat and food, you dial back the upside and let your floor stand unbothered. You also build buffers. A 1 to 2 year cash bucket that sits outside the storm allows you to pull normal spending without selling equities at a discount. A medical pocket sized for premiums and deductibles means a diagnosis will not become a debt. A maintenance pocket prevents your home and car from turning into budget emergencies. This isn't oversaving, it's sequence armor. You are not trying to beat markets, you are trying to avoid being forced to make a bad decision at the worst time. Withdrawal strategy is where theory meets groceries. The old 4% rule was never a commandment, it was a historical study. The real-world approach is dynamic and boring. You set a target rate that fits your allocation and your horizon. You withdraw less in storm years and allow small raises in calm ones. You set a guardrail. If the portfolio falls beyond a threshold, you temporarily trim distributions by a few percent and let dividends and interest refill the cash bucket. When markets recover, you resume the prior level. You rebalance mechanically on your birthday and half-birthday to keep risk aligned. This doesn't require forecasting. It requires obedience to your own rules. Tax strategy, again, is not about cleverness so much as about timing. Before retirement, consider conversions from tax-deferred accounts to tax-free accounts during lower income years if your system allows. During retirement, pull from the place that causes the least harm this year while keeping an eye on future thresholds. Realize capital gains deliberately when they're cheap. Harvest losses only if you understand the rules and record keeping. Don't let a large required distribution arrive like a surprise party you didn't want. Run projections on a quiet Sunday and set calendar nudges. The goal is not zero taxes. It's smoother taxes that don't sabotage cash flow.
What about real estate beyond your home? If you enjoy the work, have reserves, and treat it like a business, rental property can provide inflation-linked income. If the thought of tenant tax and roof replacement makes you sigh, the index fund that never calls at 2 a.m. is a kinder partner. Real estate can be a great tool when it fits your skills and temperament. It can be a demanding boss when it doesn't. Align tools with your real life, not with the identity you admire online. There is a paperwork chapter you cannot skip. Simplicity is a gift to your future self and to anyone who will help you later. Consolidate old accounts you don't need. Use a password manager with recovery codes. Update beneficiaries on every account. Create a one-page letter of instructions that says where things live, who to call, and what you prefer if you can't speak for yourself. Execute a will and the medical documents your jurisdiction requires. Put copies in a place a trusted person can find. None of this is fun, all of it is cheap insurance against chaos. You are not planning to die, you are planning not to force a scavenger hunt on someone you love. Now step into 3 rooms where these ideas live. A nurse in her late 50s planned to retire at 62 because she felt exhausted. She had savings, but most sat in tax-deferred accounts, her spending was reactive, and she feared leaving into a storm. She built rails first, even this late. Income to staging, week 1 drafts from a bills-only account, day after payday pockets, weekly card, and an automated investing drip for her last working years. She trimmed delivery by protecting 2 10-minute dinners, moved her phone charger out of the bedroom to sleep better, and wrote a 1-paragraph investing policy. Then she defined a floor and an upside. A small immediate annuity plus her social benefit would cover the floor at 65. That gave her the confidence to phase to part-time at 61 instead of quitting cold. Sequence risk shrank because withdrawals started later and smaller. 2 years into this bridge, fatigue dropped, savings rose, and the part-time work scratched the purpose itch without stealing energy. Retirement stopped feeling like a cliff and started feeling like a landing. A teacher couple in their early 60s owned a large house far from their friends and their grandkids. Their 50-30-20 pie chart had mocked them for years because needs always exceeded 50%. They changed the map. They sold distance and bought proximity, renting a smaller place near family and groceries. 1 car vanished. Insurance, fuel, and exhaustion delivery shrank. They annuitized a modest slice to cover the floor and invested the remainder in a boring global stock and bond mix. Their withdrawal rule included a guardrail. They scheduled culture on purpose, museums and matinees, so joy wouldn't ambush the budget. They executed their paperwork, wrote a letter of instructions, and taught a trusted adult child where the keys lived. The surprising effect wasn't just money, it was time. Weekends weren't logistics anymore. They became days with people they liked. The budget stopped arguing with geography and started cooperating with life. A self-employed designer in her late 40s had feast and famine income and a collection of someday retirement accounts. She became her own payroll. Invoices cleared to staging, taxes skimmed on arrival, a fixed salary landed in bills only twice monthly, the weekly card refilled from a buffer every Friday, savings and investing drips ran on autopilot. She added a small medical pocket and a maintenance pocket. She consolidated orphaned accounts and wrote a 1-page investing policy that banned heroics. She planned conversions in low-income years to build tax flexibility later. Retirement stopped being a distant number and became a current rhythm that would simply continue with different labels when she decided to work less. The unsettled feeling of not doing enough was replaced with the quiet of a plan humming in the background while she shipped creative work she actually liked. If you're starting late, the news is not all bad. Starting late means your priorities are clear and your tolerance for nonsense is low. You don't have time for confusion and identity purchases. You have time for rails, for a floor and upside plan, for a concerted push to increase income with receipts instead of hours, and for aggressive cancellation of everything that doesn't serve you. A late start paired with clean choreography beats an early start paired with confusion surprisingly often, because pace and focus do a lot of work quickly when they're not diluted by lifestyle auditions. What about macro? Interest rates, elections, policy changes? These matter at the edges, especially for taxes and healthcare. They matter less than your weekly rhythm. You can't control policy. You can control whether your bills draft on time, your pockets refill, your weekly card tops up, your buffer sits quietly, your paperwork is current, and your withdrawals obey rules you wrote on a calm Sunday. The noise will always be louder than your plan. It does not have to be stronger. If you want to start tonight, don't perform a transformation. Do a ceremony. Rename 2 accounts in your banking app so tired you can't forget what they do: staging, rails, and bills only. Schedule 4 automatic moves that fire without permission. Week 1 drafts for essentials from bills only. Day after payday drips to pockets that fund the predictable irregulars. A Friday morning refill for your weekly card, and a payday savings transfer that feeds your buffer. If your foundation is steady, add a small investing drip to a broad, low-cost fund on the same day. Open a note titled Retirement Policy and write 1 paragraph that says what you own, when you buy, how you rebalance, how you'll withdraw, and what you won't do. Put a whiteboard on your freezer with 2 10-minute dinners you will actually cook. Move your phone charger out of the bedroom. Create a 5-line Friday scoreboard that tracks buffer depth, allocation versus target, spending versus plan, withdrawals year to date, and late fees avoided. Book a quiet hour this weekend to sketch your floor and your upside, and to decide whether a slice of guaranteed income belongs in your base. Then let the system run for 4 Fridays before you adjust a thing. 6 months from now, your retirement story won't look like a movie montage. It will look like Tuesdays that keep their promises. The buffer will feel like a blanket. The portfolio will feel like a metronome instead of a lie detector. Your housing will serve you instead of billing you for distance. Your calendar will contain more people and fewer invoices. You will say yes to trips you can repeat and no to auditions you don't want to finance. And you will be able to tell someone who asks, honestly, that you're not worried about retirement because you stopped trying to predict it and started building something that survives it. Here's the last unsettling truth. The math of retirement is not the hard part. The hard part is agreeing with yourself to keep doing small, boring things in the same order for a very long time. The market will try to bribe you into drama, companies will try to sell you complexity, fear will try to pull you into cash, and greed will try to pull you into concentration. Your answer will be the same each week. Bills draft, pockets drip, card refills, buffer sit, portfolio buys, paperwork sleeps, people gather, purpose returns. That's the choreography. It isn't glamorous, it's resilient. And resilient is the real name of a retirement you'll recognize as your own.